Hi, this is Craig Ballantyne, and today you're going to learn the secrets of the subconscious mind so that you can become more successful. And I am here with Coach Gavin from my team. Gavin, how are you?
I'm great, hanging out in Mexico, closer to you.
Awesome, dude. So listen, the subconscious mind can be an amazing thing working for you, but you've also experienced the downside. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background about who you are, where you've been in life, and how your subconscious mindset kind of submarined you and sabotaged you when you were on your way to becoming a professional athlete?
Yes, and if anyone wants to watch a fun video, led me to getting my face punched in, which I showed at our live event. Yeah, so like
My favorite part of it was where it goes, down goes Mikhail, down goes Mikhail. Like the guy was calling a boxing match or something.
Yeah, and that was where I stopped the video too. I didn't want anyone to see anymore. Really ended it on that note. Yeah, and so to set that up, when I went down, we had one white stripe on our jerseys, and I remember the one thing I remember from this whole moment after the punch hit me. I'm really setting it up for people. Is the white stripe just turning blood red because I was just bleeding all over. It was not a good scene. So now that we've set you up with that, basically leading up to this point, I was like any Canadian kid, consciously, my logic brain, all I ever wanted was to play in the NHL, right? I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be a celebrity. I wanted to make millions of dollars. But really deep down, and I obviously did not know this at the time, and we're going to dig into this. My subconscious brain was all it really wanted was to be accepted. And it was super scared of all these things, right? It was super scared of being seen by a lot of people and of making a lot of money. And, there was so many things that I was holding myself back from. I was sabotaging myself, but consciously it's like, how could you be miserable? I was living the dream of millions of kids. And really what it was, I was doing it all because I thought I was supposed to. I was trying to be accepted. I was trying to please other people. And what that led up to was, beliefs about myself led to these actions of essentially quitting on myself, quitting on my team, blaming everybody else, and then getting to a point where, as the video shows, New Year's Eve, we're playing in front of 10,000 fans against our biggest rivals. We're losing the game. A big fight breaks out.
How old were you, and where like what level was this at? And
yes, I'm 17 years old at this point.
Yeah.
I did not have the tools to deal with this type of a situation. And this is the Western Hockey League, which is the next level after that is professional, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the level below professional hockey league. I was playing with the Seattle Thunderbirds, and we were in Portland, Oregon, literally playing where the Portland Trailblazers play, like in the Rose Garden and in the big arena. So,
and there was 10,000 people there on New Year's Eve.
And they all wanted me to lose. We were the rivals, right? So when I went down, the place went nuts. They loved it, right? And that was really a symbol of what was happening, right? That, as I said in the presentation last week, is that knocked me unconscious, but really it was life punching me in the face. It was life trying to wake me up, and unfortunately it didn't. But over time, I woke up enough.
So what would have been the right mindset approach for you to have taken so that you could have successfully steered yourself through that situation?
Yeah. So if we look at actions and decision making, every action, every decision you make is an emotional one, right? We like to think we make logical decisions, but if you've ever been on, in sales trainings, we make emotional decisions, right? And so my emotions, all of our emotions are set up by the beliefs we have about the events that happen. Okay, so we generally have a set of beliefs. These are subconscious beliefs. They're installed in us when we're young about our lens, the way we view the world. So if we look at that example of the event of, I was struggling, I was letting in lots of goals, we can call it failure, right? And the belief that I had was that failure meant I wasn't good enough. Failure meant that me as a human sucked, right? I couldn't handle pressure, all these things. That's what my belief was. It was a very fixed mindset, right? If I failed, I meant I wasn't good enough. So that emotionally made me angry, frustrated. I didn't know what to do. And so the actions were, I'm going to quit. I'm going to blame everybody else. I'm going to try and protect myself. Say, well, I wasn't trying, so it doesn't matter, right? I failed because I wasn't trying. If we look at that, event, belief, emotion, action, that kind of cycle of what happens, what I was trying to do was just desperately trying to change the action. Well, maybe if I work out harder, or maybe if I do this or whatever, and just praying that worked to stick and change my behavior. What really needed to happen was my beliefs, my identity needed to shift, right? So that cycle of behavior I just mentioned, that's what you would call the vicious cycle, right? We call that the vicious cycle of behavior because I quit and everything goes bad. If I had shifted my belief, right? If I had really worked on my subconscious and worked on these limiting beliefs and shifted from failure means I'm bad to failure is feedback, because really failure is a great way to learn. So I let in a goal or I lose a game, I get feedback. Well, now that changes my emotion from anger to curiosity. And that changes the actions that I take from quitting and saying I suck to asking my coach for more pointers, watching video, maybe hiring a sports psychologist. These are what we call the virtuous cycle of behavior that are only going to lead to other good things. So really it comes back to doing the work, and we can talk about that in more depth, doing the work to shift my beliefs from those that were installed in me.
So you work with entrepreneurs on a regular basis. Where do they get into this event? Remind me of the cycle again. Where do we get stuck in these loops, and how does it hold us back?
Yeah. So the loop is, an event happens, we apply the lens of our beliefs. That creates an emotion, which leads to an action or a decision. And oftentimes the ones we're trying to change are decisions that are out of alignment with what we say we want, or out of alignment with our core values. So what generally happens is, something is not going the way we want it to. Let's say we're not making enough money, or we're not making as much money as we want to be making, right? Well, if we have the belief that, well, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of making $1 million or $100,000, if we have this belief, then that is going to reinforce that belief, right? I'm not good enough. So this thing that's happening, I'm not getting enough leads, I'm not getting enough sales. That makes us angry and frustrated, which then leads us to not take the actions, right? Some of the stuff that you were sharing and we were talking to our clients about, it's like, well, if you just go and do this thing, we know we have enough evidence that that's going to lead to 10 sales or whatever. But it's getting people to do that thing because they have this belief around it. So shifting our beliefs that, maybe the fact that we haven't made enough money in a month or in a year, maybe it's not that we're not good enough. Maybe it's just we haven't applied the principles and the action steps for long enough. Or maybe we're applying the wrong action steps. It doesn't mean that we're bad. It doesn't mean that we're wrong and that we should identify as this person that's not good enough. It just means that we maybe need to change our actions, right? So when we think that these things not going well means something about us or means something about the world around us, then everything we do is reactive and comes from this place of fear that doesn't really serve anybody. But when we believe that these things that happen, when we believe in ourselves and we believe that we are good enough and, well, maybe I just need some feedback, maybe I just need to change the way I'm doing things, everything is then coming from a more purposeful place and a more positive place that's going to lead to better results.
So you've worked with a lot of our clients, Sam and Jeremy and Carl, for example, just some of the clients that specifically you've helped with this work. So maybe just, choose one event that was causing one of them struggles. You don't even have to mention their name, and just walk through how you help them get out of this loop. And then we can talk about the belief busting questions that are also very important for everybody listening to apply to their lives.
Yeah. So my one client, he's a publisher. He's an author. He actually turns authors into publishers. Mm-hmm. And he was doing really well in his business, but he felt stuck. He felt stalled at this income level. And he kept saying to me over the first couple of months working together, he's like, I know that I can sell 50K packages. I know I can sell 100K packages. I just don't know how, and I'm struggling. I've never been able to do it. Right. And he just felt stuck at this income level. And he had sold, I think, 20, 25K. So I said to him, okay, here's what we're going to do. I worked through the belief busting with him on the phone on our call. And then I said, I'm going to challenge you to do this every day for a week. You're going to find a belief that doesn't serve you. You're going to work through the belief busting questions. And then you're going to share with me your new belief, your new affirmation, this thing that serves you better. Less than a week later, he tells me he's already enrolled a 50K client. And I'm like,
wow.
Wait a second. You've only done this for like 4 days. That's the only thing that's changed. And of course, this 50K client was in the pipeline, but he had never enrolled a 50K client. And literally less than a week later, he's enrolled a 50K client. Needless to say, he's continued doing that work. He's now got an even bigger client in the pipeline that he's ready to move forward with, and looking at locking them down in October or November. And it just shows that regularly doing this work and shifting the way that your brain literally looks at the world, shifting the lens through which you view things, can change so much in your external circumstances. Like shifting internally can change so much externally.
So what are some of the most common, beliefs that people have that need this work?
Well, it's really interesting. There's been some studies and they've looked at, what are the 3 traits of the ultra successful? And I love, it's not cold showers, right? It's not getting up at 5 a.m. The 3 traits of the ultra successful people, the first 2 make sense. A superiority complex. And so they're delusional, right? They think they can accomplish amazing things, which is good. And impulse control, right? Like they can focus on things. They're not looking at the shiny objects. They're not stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. The third one's really interesting. And this is a trait across the board of ultra successful people. They have a massive insecurity and a fear of failure. A massive insecurity and a fear of failure, literally the opposite of the other 2 beliefs. And so fear of failure definitely is a very, very powerful one. And then the insecurity, I call that's your standard imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough, or who am I to deserve this? I don't deserve this. That was a big thing for me. I don't deserve to make this kind of money. Who decides what you deserve, and who deserves anything? Like, what do you mean you have to earn it? What does that even mean? Right. So the biggest thing is fear of failing, and insecurity around, like, am I good enough? That imposter syndrome, we see it all the time with entrepreneurs.
So how do we get past that?
Excellent question. How do we do it? Tell me how. So really what we want to do is we want to look at, I took us through a number of questions. To break it down quickly is, what are those moments? Write down a list of those moments where life punched you in the face, right? For me, one of those moments was an actual fist hitting my face. What are those moments where life truly punched you in the face and tried to wake you up? Maybe they're inflection points. I had mentioned, is it you lost someone important to you, or maybe you were stolen from, embezzled. One of our clients was embezzled twice, and that was leading to a lot of those beliefs. Maybe a key employee quit, or someone said something about your business, or maybe even Daniel shares in one of our lessons, our head coach Daniel, that one of his kids said, "Dad, you're on your phone all the time." Yeah. And that shifted something in him, right? So what are these major moments? Write those down, and then you can keep writing, and it's going to feel weird because it's illogical, right? This is your subconscious brain coming out. Is like, what did you make those moments mean about you or about the world? Another way to prompt to get further and deeper into this is is what's the devil on your shoulder saying when you don't do things that, or when you don't do things you know you should, or when you do things that are out of alignment, right? What's that voice in your head or that devil on your shoulder saying when you hit snooze? Whatever, you don't have important work to do anyway, or you're never going to succeed anyway. Or what's it saying when you know you should be doing 5 cold calls, but you're not doing the cold calls? Well, they're not going to answer anyway. No one cares anyway. You can't sell anyway. Those are really good insights into what your subconscious brain really believes, what it really thinks about you. So those are the first steps, and those are probably the hardest because they're unconscious. They're guiding us from behind the scenes. They're directing traffic and we don't even know they're directing traffic. So that's, I'd say, the first step, and the most important step is really write out, take 5-10 minutes. We took some time at the live event to write these things out. Then what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself to a place where you've got a phrase or a belief. So mine in hockey was, I cannot handle pressure. Okay. I cannot handle pressure. So New Year's Eve against our biggest rival in front of 10,000 fans, that is pressure, right? So my subconscious belief was, I can't handle this. So I orchestrated something to get out of that situation, right? I need to get out of this game. Unfortunately, it turned into a punch in the face, right? So those will usually come down to a belief. And the really important thing about that belief is write it out in a very simplified way, because your subconscious brain is like a third grader, right? It's very black or white. So I cannot handle pressure. Then we want to apply 4 questions. And this comes from this is a basic foundational self-inquiry work. Question number 1 is this true? Oftentimes these beliefs, we have a lot of evidence that they are true, right? I had a lot of evidence in previous games that I couldn't handle pressure. So the answer is probably like a maybe, right? It might be true. Question number 2 usually squashes that, is, do I know this to be true without a shadow of a doubt? Essentially, this question is asking, is this a fact? And if you can't say that it is a fact, then it must be a belief and we can change it. So 99.9% of the time, the answer to question number 2 is no. And then we know we can change this belief. Question number 3 is, what happens when I buy into this belief, right? So what happens when I buy into, I cannot handle pressure? I don't prepare for games. I get nervous. I overthink. I don't let myself flow and play and enjoy it, right? What happens? Maybe if it's a business thing, you play small, right? You don't think about making $1 million because you're scared to make $1 million. Maybe I don't take actions I know I should take. Maybe it's I hit snooze. What happens when you buy into that? Question number 4 is, who could you step into if you chose to believe something different? Right? And notice the difference there. That's an identity question. What identity could you step into? Who could you become if you chose to believe something different?
What would your answer as a young man have been to that one?
I could be one hell of a hockey player. Right? I could be a professional hockey player. I could be the top goalie in the league. Right? That's the identity I could step into, but I still had this identity of this like kid from small town Manitoba who just didn't really know what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Right? So yeah, who could you be? Who could you step into? Could you be that person that you maybe in the past never thought you could be? Could you be a better parent? Could you be a better business partner? Could you be more involved in your community? Who could you step into? And so those are the 4 questions. Those are the 4 questions. The bonus is to share the truth. So the truth is, and to share a belief that better serves you. And for me, the truth is, I can handle the pressure. Maybe it's not that I handle pressure well. Maybe I don't quite believe that. Right? Because the subconscious brain is a great BS detector. It will always know when you're BSing it. So we got to meet it where it's at. So I can handle pressure. And then we like to say, the truth is, I can handle pressure because. Give yourself evidence. So I had evidence that I had handled pressure in the past. I had played great games in the past. And even when I didn't handle pressure, I learned from that, right? So the truth is I can handle pressure because I've done it before. And even when I haven't, I've learned from my mistakes. So now we have a belief that serves us better, and our subconscious brain, we have evidence to show it, to prove to it that that is true.
That's amazing, man. That's so helpful that, those belief busting questions and helping people get out of the loop. People that are listening are going to have huge breakthroughs with, they might have been stuck at $500,000 for 10 years. And I think this is going to help them get to that $1 million mark and beyond. Or maybe somebody who's not been able to sell a high ticket client, or maybe not been able to finish their book, or not been able to do all these things, or maybe a young athlete who was on the path to not going pro will finally go pro. So the last thing I want to ask you, Gavin, is if you could go back in time and give that 17-year-old one piece of advice on New Year's Eve, 2005, what would you say to him?
Oh man, if I could give him advice, this may come as interesting. You do not need to perform to be accepted. So that would be the piece of advice I would give him, right? Which is, you can be accepted as you are enough. Mm-hmm. The advice as to what action steps to take, if I had known this, would be consistently give yourself evidence that you are good enough, right? Consistently looking for evidence. If you wouldn't mind I share one more story. Joe Marcoux, who was at the event. Joe Marcoux is one of our clients. He's a great sales objection specialist. And I went to breakfast with him, and he's from the same hometown as me. When I found out he was in the program, went to breakfast with him. I'd never met him before. We walk outside after breakfast, and he spots a dime. We talk about, don't pick up dimes, but he spots a dime in the parking lot, and he picks it up and he holds it up to the sky, and he says, "Thank you, universe, for this incredible example that abundance is everywhere." This guy makes 7 figures, and he's thanking the universe for a dime. That is the perfect example of looking for any opportunity you can to prove to yourself that you can have it. He's proving to himself that abundance is everywhere because there's dimes just everywhere around him, right? It's a sign of abundance, right? How can you show, right? So every save I made, I could have been like, that's an example that I am good enough. Every game I won, that's an example that I'm good enough. And you can start looking for these examples and training your brain to look for the positives, which totally shifts your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Amazing. Every single victory that you have, to everybody listening, every single victory that you have on a daily basis, look at that as the sign that you can have more. So Gavin, that was absolutely awesome. I really, really appreciate your time today. I know you're busy with coaching clients in our program. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap this one up? And I'm sure we'll have you back in very, very soon.
Yeah. I mean, if someone wants a challenge, bust one belief a day for the next week, like our client did.
Nice 7-day challenge. That's right.
Little 7-day challenge for you.
Yeah. And if you have results with that, if you're closing $50,000 sales, we'd love to hear from you. So thanks, Coach Gavin. Really appreciate you. You crushed it with that presentation at our mastermind. It changed lives. And I know people were, hunting you down after, because you said something that really struck a nerve inside a lot of people who are already successful, but on the verge of going to the next level. So everybody watching, go and bust beliefs for the next 7 days, break those bad cycles, and let us know when you hit the next level with your results.
Yes. Thank you.